I think we should say welcome to Policing New York Region, and I'm going to interview Don Pratt. So Don, I understand you've been doing this program for 5 years, and almost some 100 programs.
See, now that's a great promo piece for us, right there.
Don, answer the question.
Yeah, answer the question, Don.
I wasn't listening close enough to answer it.
I started my career, you may know, I started my career in the city of Edmonton.
Yes.
As a young kid of 21 years of age. Always wanted to police in the community I grew up in. So I grew up in Thornhill. Thornhill before there was Highway 7, and definitely Thornhill before there was a 407.
Okay, yes.
And, I joke with people, and people of my vintage, right? We talk about trudging through the snow to go to school. I went to a public school on 16th Avenue, Roselawn Public School. Right. So my trek to school by foot was a couple miles in that deep snow and stuff like that, right? But that's hardships of a young person in the early 70s.
You said that as youth you would always wanted to become a police officer. Why is that? What led you to that?
I've always wanted to, help people and also give back to my community. And, when I walk away from the job here, I think I'll said to myself, I think I've been pretty successful at doing that. I did apply to York Regional Police, and unfortunately at the time there were no opportunities at YRP. So still desperately wanted to be a police officer, and I took that advantage of going west, young man, in the late 70s, and I started a policing career in the city of Edmonton.
Right. Yeah.
Every young officer that graduated in Edmonton was assigned to walk the beat. Now I look at it, part of walking the beat was to get police officers familiar with interacting with community in a uniform. My introduction to walking the beat, Jasper Avenue in the city of Edmonton, 40 below.
Wow.
Yeah, so for the week, so it forced you to actually walk into shops and whatnot and get warm, but also to begin conversations with community.
Yes.
I think I'd been on the job about 9 months, and my
Still new.
My first opportunity was to do some security at a mall in Edmonton, and so I go to the mall, and my assignment was to sort of stand by and sort of watch as this young person was signing autographs.
Right.
So I was brand new to Edmonton, and that young person was also brand new to Edmonton. And my first special duty was to stand over the shoulder of Wayne Gretzky as he was signing 99 when he started with the Edmonton Oilers.
That's amazing. That's quite a special duty.
Yeah.
Right.
You look at it back 40 years later and you say, well, that's kind of cool. Right?
It is.
I didn't know who the heck he was at the time, right? I was brand new to Edmonton myself.
You were just doing your paid duty.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So how long did you stay in Edmonton before you made the shift?
About 2.5 years, and the organization knew, York Regional Police knew that I was interested in being a member here. And in around Christmas time of 1980, I got a phone call from the deputy chief at the time, and they asked me if I'd like to come home, young man.
Wow.
And I said, yes.
This is what you've been working.
This is what I've been working for. So I started at YRP on the 5th of January, 1981.
Wow.
And I started working at Newmarket, out of what we call one district in Newmarket, as a frontline patrol officer.
Right. So how big would the force have been in?
About 300.
Hey, you've been here for a little while. Your badge number reflects that. 271?
271, yeah.
Yeah, you've been around for a little while.
Yeah, there's only we have two other people here at YRP that have a little bit more time than I do, which is, I commend them big time.
Wow.
So from a seniority list, from a length of service, I'm number 3 on the list. Yeah.
That's interesting. So you just had a drive. You want to help people, and policing was the way that you were going to help people.
Yep. I desperately always wanted, when I arrived here from Edmonton, I had it in my mind that I wanted to be a detective.
Yes.
Right. So I had done.
And that's where we were going next.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Right. So I always wanted to be a detective. And so while working at one district, the chief of the day, Don Hillock,
Yes.
he became the chief actually in early 1986. And he gave me a phone call out of the blue. And when you get a phone call from the chief's office,
It probably rattles you a little bit, doesn't it?
I've been working on that as a chief of police for 10 years. So when I have people come and visit me, it's it's not like coming to the principal's office. It's
Yes.
like right where I was a little taken back. I went and visited that chief of police, and he'd asked me if I would come and work for him. So anyway, I left the office, his office, sharing with him that I wanted to be a detective.
You didn't accept the role?
Not at first, no. I desperately wanted to be detective, and I laugh now because, in hindsight, the only person in the '80s, the only person that would ever allow you or make you a detective was the chief of police.
Yeah.
So I was so naive as a young person,
Yes.
right? I did have someone suggest to me that I may want to reconsider that opportunity, and I did.
Okay.
And I tell people that sometimes people see things in others than they see them in themselves. So I saw a detective. Don Hillock saw something
Chief seeing
something
a different path.
some very different paths.
And in what capacity would that be if you're working for the
So
chief?
I was working in our what they call it, our planning and research area. Very much engaged in on the long-term planning of a police service. And the facilities that
Sure.
went with it. So who would ever guess, right?
Yes.
Who would ever guess that a young kid wanting to be a police officer, right, wanting to serve a community, would end up engaging in project management. So I project managed our one district facility, our Vaughan station,
Three
our
districts.
Richmond Hill station, our Markham station, our 3-district station in Georgina, our facility here at headquarters,
Right on Don Hillock Drive. Yeah.
our training facility in East
Absolutely.
Gwillimbury, a substation in King, a substation in Wichita. But those,
And the Marine Unit,
and Marina.
right? Like
So
that's-
you lose track, right?
yeah.
But
but there's been a lot,
there's a lot.
and a lot of significant ones, right?
Yeah, you take a look at our training facility, for example. That was a 13-year project. And our Police Services Board recognized the importance of training.
Yeah.
I
That
tell
was
you,
a
it's
long
paid off
road.
for our citizens. I'll tell you
Oh,
that
absolutely.
it's paid off significantly.
It's an incredible facility. We've had the opportunity of being there.
As I said, that project was a 13-year outing.
Right.
Was all sorts of ups and downs and challenges thrown in. But one looks back at that today and says, wow, that, the payoff to the citizens of this region has
Absolutely.
been significant. I can tell you that the police officers here in the York Region are probably the best or one of the best trained in Canada.
Yeah, they're known for it. Yeah.
And we're significant, as you say, we're significantly recognized for that. This region has seen tremendous growth.
Yeah.
So I watched this unfold. So when my peers are dealing with crime as their main piece of interest and work, we have that too here in the York Region. But we're also trying to manage through tremendous growth, now densification and intensification. Plus, layered all in that is the whole diversification of a community.
Absolutely.
So this region has changed dramatically over my career,
And most certainly.
and having to ensure that this police service represents the community it serves. So we've been on that trail for quite some time to make sure that we are very much connected to a community, building trust and confidence in a community. You do that one person at a time, one day at a time. I think your viewers will understand that as York Region grows, so does its youth cohort,
Yes.
right? So we have a growing youth cohort, and we have a declining youth crime rate.
Yes.
So what's the payoff? If you have the ability to have conversations with over 400,000 young people in this region, there may be some payoffs.
Yeah, you're engaging youth early.
I got to tell you, on March the 10th, we're going to be not only a national leader here, but we're going to be an international leader. So we're going to be the only police service in the world who is opening a new classroom at our community safety village that's all around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And some people say, why would you be in that space? So I'm going to tell you, everyone knows about crime prevention, and we are mandated as a law enforcement agency to be very heavily engaged in the crime prevention space. What we see is emerging is hate crime.
Absolutely.
So when you are able to bring young children together to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is basically, quite frankly, it's hate crime prevention.
Yes.
What it is. And I say we have been recognized by the United Nations in New York.
Yes.
We are very proud of what we've accomplished here. We're actually there's going to be official naming. It's going to be named by the Chippewas of Georgina. We've built a lovely partnership with
It has
the
been
island.
a very strong relationship for many years.
Right. So we're very proud and pleased that they would name the classroom for us. And as I said, we will. This will be another significant tool in the toolkit.
We've been learning a lot about Chief Eric Jolliffe. When we come back, we will see why he doesn't sit on the business side of his desk, as well as his more humorous side.
He took it from me, and he went like this, and he puts his arm around me and he says, "Let's have a photograph." So anyway, we got invited to the opening of this Buddhist temple in Toronto, and so the diversity unit, myself, we went.
Yeah.
And the president of the Tibetan Association lives in Thornhill.
Okay.
So So anyway, so he made arrangements for us to sneak in and see the Dalai Lama. So I gave him, this is a stick arm. Right? He's one of the top world. Right. So anyway, I presented him this hat.
So that's
I said, "Welcome to Canada, and you'll want." It was the middle of winter, so you'll want to wear this when you're in Canada, right? He took it from me, and he went like this, and he puts his arm around me and says, "Let's have a photograph." I talk about just a down to earth individual, right? So anyway, that was the first time I met him. I met him at another social event, and then the third time where that photograph was taken, he was in Ottawa.
Okay.
And the president of the Tibetan Association phoned us and said, "Oh, by the way, the Dalai Lama is flying from Ottawa to Toronto, and then from Toronto, I think to London, England. And if you would like to see him, I will make the arrangements." So myself and now Superintendent Ricky Verapin, Paul Chang, I don't know if you know Paul or not. So he's one of our diversity officers. So we met the Dalai Lama privately in a secure holding area at Toronto Airport.
Wow.
We were the only ones there.
Wow.
It was the coolest opportunity. The Dalai Lama has a tremendous sense of humor.
Huh.
Yeah. And quite an honor. This is one of the top 5 leaders in the world, right?
Yeah, right.
So it was quite an honor. So, anyway, yeah.
I've always heard when you meet him, you have to gift him something.
Well, but every time you give them something, and the person, "Let's have a photograph," right? So it's kind of cool. Anyway, it's quite an honor,
awesome.
One of those once in a lifetime opportunities.
Right. So, how long have you been in? Like you started the role with the planning and that in the early '90s. When did you transform into?
So I, as I said, I worked for 2 chiefs.
You would have seen a lot of chiefs in 40 years.
I've seen them all. 6 before me. I'm the 7th chief at YRP. I've been the chief now. I'm in my 10th year here.
Right.
I moved from that planning environment to be responsible for at the time. You look back at it, the time it was the biggest and busiest district in the region. That was R5 district, which is the city of Markham.
Which is a market, yeah.
Yeah, so I was the commander there for nearly 5 years. I wasn't a detective, but I got to be responsible for the detectives that were localized at the local area.
It's a step
I
in the
loved
right
working in Markham, quite frankly. Built some very strong community ties there.
Yeah, he's just having a bit of a cough. You okay, buddy? Need some more water?
This is what you got.
Yeah, no, go take a break. We're not going anywhere.
Oh no, I'm
At
good.
least you didn't fart.
That's right.
Seriously.
That is true.
Yeah.
So you've seen all kinds of things. There must be some things that stick
Yeah.
out.
Well, you know, I can tell you as a patrol officer, now you'll go back a few days.
It's okay.
But
I'll go with that.
you know, I do recall one evening on general patrol, and I was in the town of Aurora, and actually was on Bathurst Street, and Bathurst Street back in the day was surprisingly a dirt road.
Yes.
People won't remember
a
this,
bit.
but a dirt road.
Yeah.
So I was just quietly at about 11 o'clock at night, minding my own business, parked at the side of the road when a car went buzzing by me, and it was missing a front wheel.
Missing a front.
Yeah, and the sparks, you couldn't miss it, right? It was like the sparks were coming off.
That's an interesting
off
sight.
the wheel drum, I guess,
Yeah.
right? So
Okay.
I pulled out behind that car, and I ended up getting into a bit of a police pursuit from south of Wellington and Aurora up almost to Highway 9,
Oh wow.
where
Okay.
that vehicle went in. It went into the ditch, and you know, I pulled the gentleman that was driving out of the car, and he seemed to be disoriented a bit, and I thought, this person must be impaired or something like that.
Sure.
I put him in the back of my car, and anyway, I took him into our station in Newmarket and began to do the processing piece, which I thought was impaired driving, definitely dangerous driving, and some other things that were connected to that.
Of course.
I had lodged the individual in our cells, and as I was doing the paperwork before I was going to release this individual, I got a call from the Hull Police. So they're called Gatineau Police now.
Oh, right,
Back
okay,
in the day,
sure.
Hull.
Okay.
And in sort of broken English and French, had a conversation with the detective from Hull. He said that we had seen that we had flagged that vehicle on CPIC, which is the Canadian Police Information System.
Right.
They had flagged that vehicle, and we had seen that you had run that plate. And we wanted to know what the circumstances. And so I said, well, I'd like to know the circumstances of why you are.
Yes, please.
And he said, well, he is connected to a missing person here in Hull. He said, we'll be here in like 6 hours. So, you know, this is like 1 o'clock in the morning. So 7 o'clock in the morning, these two detectives from the Hull Police show up. And I had the opportunity to sort of brief them on what I had discovered, which was this guy driving on three wheels and whatnot, and you know, the guy couldn't explain where the heck he'd been and where he was going and all this other stuff. It was just bizarre. And so as I'm having the conversation with the detectives, they're telling me about this missing person case. The phone rings in the office that we are in, and it's our front desk at one district saying, are those two detectives with you? And I said, yes, they are. And he said, well, it's the Hull Police calling. Detective gets on the blower, and they're having a conversation, and puts the phone down, and he puts his hand out, and he shakes my hand. And he says, thank you very much. He says, we are now going to arrest him for murder.
Whoa.
So turns out that this chap had strangled his common-law's daughter and stuffed her under the bed
Wow.
in the home. So what I share with our frontline people, sometimes good things come from traffic stops.
Yes.
I made an arrest of someone for murder before they even knew they had committed the murder.
That is amazing.
Right, so that'll be a 1 in a million.
Yes.
In terms of our, like our frontline officers aren't arresting people for murder every day of the week, right?
No.
So that's like a 1 in a million
it most certainly
opportunity
is.
for a frontline constable, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that was if there's a story that's unique, that for me
That
is
is
a bit
definitely
unique.
unique.
So that was when I was that young budding wannabe detective.
Yes.
So that happened in I want to say 1984. Well,
So one thing that I notice anytime that I come into your office, this is where we sit.
yes,
I've never sat on the receiving end of your desk.
no. Maybe this is my bugaboo, if there's a bugaboo,
Okay.
right? But I find that desk to be it's a barrier. You know, I've had a couple of experiences in my career that have led me to say, you know what, I'm not leading like that. That's not how I am as an individual. And on two occasions, two learning opportunities, came into the office of the chief of police and sat on I'll call it the receiving
Yes.
side of the desk,
Yes.
where I received, and
Okay.
and I didn't feel very good. Right, I walked away saying to myself, I have never been spoken to in my career, and by that time I had a career of at least 25 years. I had never been. Never had that encounter before.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So that was a bit painful. And then second outing. So this is, the chief wants to see you in his office. All right. So
Here's those words again.
again, there's
Yeah.
those words again. So it's like, God, like going to the principal's office
Yeah.
or whatever. So for 10 years, I've tried to make the experience of coming to visit the chief one of pleasance. My other opportunity was at the time I was working as the commander in Markham,
Right.
and had now been there 5 years. So that's a fair bit of time to be
Sure.
placed in a
Sure.
location, and absolutely loved working in Markham. I loved working in community. I loved the folks that were working there, and we were doing some really cool and neat stuff. And I got a phone call saying the chief wants to see you in his office. So this can't be too good,
No,
right?
that's right. That's
So
right.
anyway, I came here and was told, guess what? You're moving. Yeah. So I moved from our Markham station to be responsible for our field support group, which is the tactical unit, the traffic unit, the canine unit.
It's a significant role.
It's yes. That individual had said to me, I'm moving you because you either are going to change the culture of that work environment, or I'm going to gut it.
So this was your task.
This was my task. So, when I took the job, I made some certain promises to my employer. And some of those promises would sound something like this. So I suggested to them that at the end of my term as chief of police, that YRP would still be one of the safest communities in Canada. So I made these statements in November of 2010.
Okay, 10 years ago.
10 years ago. So, as I said, York Region would remain one of the safest communities in Canada. York Region and York Regional Police, its police service would be integrated into the fabric of its community. It would still remain one of the most cost-effective police services in this country. It would be recognized as a top 100 employer. When I made those comments, I didn't even know what a top 100 employer was. Seriously, I didn't. These are promises that I made, and I look back now, and I will be measured to those promises.
Yes. Yes. So what would you say to somebody that comes up to you and says, out of respect, Chief Jolliffe, I would like to enter a career in policing? What advice would you give to that person?
I would tell them to jump in wholeheartedly. I got to tell you, this job has been. This is the best job in the world. It's you think about it, a job that each and every day you have the opportunity to interact with folks, sometimes when they're not in their best space, but an opportunity to help one out.
Yes.
An ability to make a difference in your community, to be a leader in community,
Yes.
to be connected to community. I don't know.
I'll tell
And
you this.
I over 40, I've done so many different things.
Yes.
I never would have thought that I would have the opportunity or the ability to buy a helicopter. This was seen as a luxury, and it has paid off for
Oh,
the police service,
incredibly.
for our citizens of this region, hundreds and hundreds of times.
Incredibly.
Full, right? It has been a marvelous asset to this community.
Do you want me to thank the chief for his time, for his, right? We're keeping that. We're keeping that. We're good?
Yeah.
Chief, I just wanted to thank you so much for, not just for taking the time for this, but for being such an incredible partner in our community. I mean, I've had a tremendous ride with YRP, both on the volunteer side and in recent years with Policing York Region and Rogers TV. And you've been a significant push to that and supporter. And we, through you, we get support throughout the policing community. So, Chief,
Thank you very much.
thanks very much.
And thank you guys for doing what you do to promote the work of YRP. Thank you.